I think if the financials are so messy that you're unsure, honestly, if there's sort of a black box of potential risk there, I know we've talked about that a lot, but the potential for risk or the actual risk that a business has is probably most important to consider when walking away from a deal or potentially thinking about walking away from a deal. Um, if the owner has certain answers to questions that may feel dodgy, that also might be a good opportunity to maybe reevaluate the communication style that you have with the owner and make sure that you both are getting sort of the very transparent talking to each other as people sort of conversations that you should get out of that. You want to make sure that their business continues to be sort of a local legacy after you buy it. And they certainly don't want you to buy a bad business that's going to make them look bad at the end of the day if they were to hand it off to somebody that needed more help or more honest answers. And then, if there's key employees that potentially have issues with a deal, I think that's also, especially on the Main Street side where there might be employee counts of like 1 to 20, it might be very important to make sure that you get buy-ins from all the stakeholders, not necessarily just financial stakeholders, but operational stakeholders that might be involved. We've heard a few recent stories from some buyers that are purchasing businesses where GMs are handling the operations day to day and the owner is out of the business, and that's a great opportunity for a purchase. But at the end of the day, if those key employees are potentially thinking about leaving after the acquisition due to the lack of incentives potentially that the owner put in place early or the lack of incentives that you as the buyer are presenting to them, I think that those things are important to consider if you are thinking about buying a business and if you're even thinking about walking away from a business, right? Um, if some of those specific deal criteria pop up that at the end of sort of the deal structuring and due diligence, and once you're getting the purchase agreement ready, if more of that risk is popping up, I would say it's probably a good idea to just reevaluate that, week by week. Um, but you definitely want to make sure that you still have the key employees in place, the financials aren't too messy, or at least you've done some type of like quality of earnings report, even if that's a light version of it, of like a true expert report. And then, yeah, just making sure that you and the owner are on the same page. I think at the end of the day, like we've talked a lot about just talking to owners as if they're real people because they are, and they've been working on these businesses for tens of years, decades. And you just need to make sure that you're both on the same page and being honest with each other so that you can continue their local legacy when they hand you the baton.